here together with our special guest, Martin Honzik, who is the Chief Curatorial Officer and the Managing Director of Ars Electronica, Pre-Ars Electronica, and the Ars Exports. If I'm not... No, you're not the person.
No, but I will explain it later on.
Okay. Let's just say CCO.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will begin with an introduction to how Ars was built, and we will listen to from Martin first about his presentation, and then we will move on to some questions, and then Q&A from everyone. So welcome again.
Thank you, Beyza. Should I talk up via the microphone? No, I start with the microphone, and then in between I ask you, because I think I'm loud enough and the room is small enough. Yeah, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity, for having me here and introducing me as Mr. Special Guest. I hope that you introduced all the other speakers the same way. What you just said, you want me to talk a little bit about the construction of Ars Electronica, so where we are. So, and I think it is pretty interesting that I am sitting here representing the flagship. Some say the father, I say the mothership, or whatever, representing a really big piece of media art institution, while another one, a very important seed, starts to grow out of the soil of a very interesting cultural spot where the history of humankind, since the history has been written down, is part of it, on a place that culturally has always been such an incredible, important spot. It was part of my fairy tales, part of my youth travels, and it is a big mythos. And I think it is totally important, and this is with what I want to start, that you guys are starting to grow this seed here to foster, for sure, a very progressive and interesting art scene that needs to be here, because that city needs to have this counterweight or this color in this wonderful big picture. So first of all, congratulations to you guys, I see all the founders here, besides one person with the same haircut like me, but he will come. Let's start with a big hand for you guys. I think it's wonderful what you're doing. So, in the last days, I always felt I was honored to be part of this, of the many events, of the experiment that you are doing. Is it possible to position media art and media artists on something that is very close to the traditional art markets, to the old values, so to speak, of art? And I think, besides what I said before, only this experiment is something from highest importance, and that you're kicking the first edition off with this, I would say, with one of the most complex and difficult exercises, is more than outstanding, but also important, because it is not that we are sitting here to clap on our own shoulders. It is not that we are sitting here to show institutions. Institutions are here to kind of protect, to foster, to break a lens for the species why we are here. And this is media artists. This is the artists that are working on the nexus between the arts, technology, society, and the science. And this is outstanding, and it's also quite a risk that you're going, I have to say. But to answer it also before, I was very impressed about the collection, also about the toughness of the participators of the different galleries. And I was part in moments where risk-going collectors also came and bought media art, and still in a time where the values of media art in terms of market issues and values are actually not really proved, and still, like it is, if you would call it, if you would compare it with the stock market, it's a risk it's a risk investment still, but it is important. So, Ars Electronica, to come to the little institution that brought me here. I like to start to demystify, to deconstruct, so to speak, what we have in front of you. Because I mean, it is easy to construct history when you have all the circumstances and ingredients already on the table, and you look back in time, and then it's totally easy, and where you say, okay, it came that, it came that, it came that, it came that. So Ars Electronica, because Ars Electronica wasn't a result of some kind of genius Big Bang, where boom, and all of a sudden it was here and everything was like floating with each other, and it was an entire love story of success. No, it was a long story of pain, hard work, and of an investment of human energy. For sure, it was driven by genius minds, but not one mind. It was always a collaborative process, and many people who did what they did, so that we have it to do with this big institution that Ars Electronica is. My name is Martin Honzik, so I am an educated artist, not a digital artist. I come actually from the opposition in the little city where Ars Electronica in my age always has been the big guys that took all the money, the big guys who avoided that the independent scene could grow and could do what they want to do. So I was once sitting on the other side of the Danube in the little city where I'm coming from, saying, if I would ever work for these guys, please drill 2 holes in my knees. And now I'm sitting here, beyond 50, and I've been working for this institution since 2001 with a year of a break, where I was afraid that I would not see my son growing again. So I was just afraid that I would lose this time, because I was working like others, like hell, for growing this institution. I started as a researcher at the Ars Electronica Future Lab, as an artist, as a researcher, and in 2006 I got the call after the break if I wouldn't come back and take over the festival as a producer. Now I'm sitting here since 1st of January. I am not anymore in an operative position, so I used to be like the managing director of the pre-Ars Electronica, of our export activities, of the festival, and also from all artistical actions in our museum. But I'm very happy that I have this weight off my shoulder, and that I'm now in a different, let's say, flight height to think strategical for the entire entity. I'm sad at the same time, to be honest, because I much more see myself as a creative producer. I've seen myself as that because this means that you are very close to where it happens. You are in between of thinking and realizing, but I just stop crying now, okay? And follow the instructions where you have me here. From the avant-garde to a global phenomenon, and I'm not talking from Ars Electronica, so I'm not, but I'm much more talking from the media artists. So, and from this moment that made the legend, where 15 media artists from I think 15 or 12 different countries came together in 1979 in Linz, which is a little city in Upper Austria, actually a real little city. It would not be it hasn't, I think it hasn't have the size of a quarter here of Istanbul. They changed this city, so to speak, with their expertise, with their questions that they raised, their global questions, into kind of an interpretation of a free university. Free minds, free citizens, 4 thinkers from all different cultural backgrounds that all saw on the horizon, in the times of electronification, not digitalization, a huge boost that this technology did in the industries. automatization was also a word that became their fancy. Was it actually much more from interest from the commercial side and also from the side of creating more efficiency in producing things? These kind of visionary people already saw that this technology, this speed, this technology all of a sudden brought over us. Would heavily also influence us in all our niches of daily lives. And now we are sitting here, and I think everybody agrees with us. It came harder and more intense than expected, to be honest. The challenges that even the cyberpunk, that in the cyberpunk novels in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s that were written, they are close to what our reality is, but the air that we feel in our face, the wind that we feel in our face, and the air that we smell in our face smells far more complex and than expected, to be honest. And that this happens within one generation is actually also the phenomenon of the success of Ars Electronica. Our growth has not to do with commercial interest. Our growth has nothing to do with a genius mind's vision to kind of touch the stars. I mean, there were these visions, but it would have been much too ambitious. It has simply to do that the vision, the utopia and the dystopia that was written down before the millennium came within one generation. And that one generation, I mean, those who were standing like in the 80s there, shouting out the digital revolution, the biggest chance that via technology, a new wave of and a new understanding of democracy could link us global-wide as citizens, as global citizens, that they now see that these tools that came so hopeful gained its power into somehow the wrong hands, into hands with only commercial interest, and that would like create such a complexity in the challenges and obstacles that we face in our all-day lives, that it again needs these critical thinkers coming from the arts, the philosophers, the visionaries, the artists, the engineers, coming together in events like that, giving this digital a alternative twist, and not to discuss it as a technology, sheer technology only, then rather more discussing what ethics we would need in using this technology, specifically when they became autonomous, when they became intelligent, and what humanity means in this context. So the global phenomenon that I'm talking about made, so to speak, the success of Ars Electronica, that has been built its values from the very first beginning in the relationship between art, technology and society. And I would even say I extend the term technology to this term of science and technology. What Ars Electronica today is, and I start from that on, is a festival. I put it later on in a food chain and on a timeline, or even in a circular economical context, it is working. So we have a festival which is, it is the biggest event in the field. It is one of the seldom opportunities for media artists who are everywhere, but still a minority compared to the big cake of contemporary and modern art. A opportunity to live, to take care for their existence, to show each other, and to get in exchange. And again, I mean, what you are doing here is more than meaningful. And I also see others here from Canada. I see Amin here from what he's doing in Dubai. I mean, there are all spots where formats like that are desperately needed, and that's why I will always foster and try to kind of help these kind of initiatives, because growth in the cultural sense is just a logical consequence. You have to keep on going on working. And I looked into your faces yesterday evening, and I saw the tiredness, and the only thing that I thought is, the hell, I'm so happy that I'm a guest here and I don't have to make the festival now, but because I totally understand. But it needs this passion.
You'd feel so lucky.
Yeah, let me joke a little bit. We have the pre-Ars Electronica, which I will introduce you later on in its categories, where we put the focus on art only. So Ars Electronica is not influencing, so to speak, the price, and or let's say we don't give a topic, a curatorial topic. We don't judge even on our own. The legacy of pre-Ars Electronica is that it's always a huge happening where we invite the international guests who are, instead of us, are giving us their time, their expertise, and who are judging, so to speak, what year by year is from the subjective point of group of a crew, of a jury crew, the best of media arts. If you step back there in our role and if you look over the shoulders of these experts, it's just wonderful because you see what artists are thinking, what the trends, so to speak, are, why they are reacting, and with what tools and techniques they are trying to express their artistical ideas. In other words, and we are with a little bit of fantasy, you really see the growth or the development of the entire global, including all the geopolitical conflicts, the environmental problems. I mean, artists are mummies and daddies. Artists are creatures and citizens of this world, and they don't bring us on Mars. They just bring us closer to the essence of what we have in front of us and where we are in. We have a little museum that is, compared to the city size that we have, totally fitting. It is a very successful piece of technology, piece of a museum with orientation on education and on the region. We have, so to speak, an R&D department that was underlining the idea of computer science and heavily coining and helping that to establish this term as a serious scientific term. We have a youth initiative that is focusing only on growing, so to speak, the national, on bringing the national kids and young creatives, as we call them, closer to become artists, or let's say critical self-thinking, authentic self-thinking and critical citizens. We have solutions, which is like the unit that is at the end of the food chain that tries to commercialize the expertise of artists together with the artists. And then we have a little unit in Japan. We have Ars Electronica Export. This is also the reason why I am here. We, besides this event, also planning another event that most probably takes place by the end of February in a super cool place here in Istanbul, but more to come later. We, in Corona time, created like specific educational formats for not disappearing, so to speak, as the clowns of society in times of Corona from, so to speak, the screen. So we wanted to offer something. You all remember this term, digital transformation, and how it came. And we have an archive for sure, where every activity, specifically all the submitted projects from the pre-Ars Electronica are stored. So also this, it's open and public, so I strongly recommend to spend the one or the other minute. It's pretty interesting. Looking at the timeline, it starts to make more sense because it came step by step. So I already described you the history. So it started 79. Linz was at that time a highly polluted industrial city. Life quality really was sad, and the local politicians there, they were so wise, I really have to say, that they stick together and they developed a cultural development plan that would last 30 years, with a target that 2009, around that, Linz should become Europeans' cultural headquarter, which at the end really happened. I mean, and you were fostered by the municipal, thanks, and we all rely where we are doing our jobs to smaller initiatives, to smaller political systems, and we all know, I mean, that like businessmen are thinking in 1 years, and politicians, I mean, you know, I mean, they are not here to think in a decade or even beyond. So this is really remarkable. I have this paper at home. I mean, it's really not a mythos. It is really written down, and the city was really following it because they saw that investing in culture, in art, in this kind of art, doesn't mean that the industry is excluded. It was at the beginning already the idea to have like the industry, to reposition industry in this topography of a city, to redefine it, to help the industry itself, to innovate itself, to become, to be a part, you know, because it is the resource of existence for the mummies and daddies working when they want to send the kids to university, whether to study art or so whatever. In '87. After the big skepticism of the politicians, was kind of a little bit blown away, and the festival was kind of already established, and they understood, my God, these international artists coming to Linz, they are literally changing our small city in a colorful stage. So they made the city to a stage which would never happen here in Istanbul, because Istanbul is sheer too big and itself a part of the competition to a festival. But this is really one of the only points, I have to say, where it makes sense to do a festival in a scale of Ars Electronica in such a small city, because you literally transform the entire city. You just cannot escape. You cannot get lost. Getting lost in Linz means you have 5 minutes of silence, and then you meet somebody who is also lost and asking them, hey, where is this other event, and so and so. So a very sympathetic and authentic ground for a big festival. On the other side, in like growing a festival, in gaining more supporters, like the big global players, sponsors, they then say, hey, they clap on your shoulder, yeah, you are so sexy, you are so cool, but why should we spend $1 million for a city of 250 people living there? It's, you know, it doesn't happen. And I've been trying this for 20 years, and more clever and more talented guy did the same. And we went through therapies, and we now know it's not necessarily our fault. So the pre-Ars Electronica was found in the classical disciplines, meaning music, at the beginning film, video, and then computer animation, and later on these topics that are coining today, so to speak, the interpretation of media arts, interactivity, hybridity, came up. But before, it was rather classically coming out of the traditional disciplines of at that time modern art. 1996. The local politicians understood that giving prizes with local tax money to international artists is not just wasting energy and local money. There comes also something back. So they understood also digitalization at that time already became a term. That what these crazy clowns said in the late 70s and the 80s became really true. And the little city between Salzburg and Vienna, two metropoles of classical culture, could really make a difference in investing into something called a museum of the future, ironically. So we got, so to speak, the financial resources. And when I say we, I was not part of the mission at that time. I was on the other side of the Danube, as I said, a young progressive rioting art university dude, hating the established institutions. But it was at that time where we decided to create a prototype of a museum, something in between a science museum and a classical art museum. A museum that should break a lens for the media artist, but not necessarily for the art only, but that should be an offer to the lacks of educational systems. with the infrastructure the house had, and also the method and the talent that art has to kind of translate differently, open, like, let's say, alternative ways, critical ways of thinking to the same problematics. Creating a prototype, and that was also done actually by a person that is still running our initiative, Gerfried Stocker. He was not so stupid taking the money, going to some sexy agency like in UK or in Germany, saying, hey, I want something unique and I have here some money. What he said, no, I will not burn that. I will use the submitters, the addresses that I had, from the pre-Ars Electronica. Today you would call it residency. They were simply asking them, hey, we could offer you a job opportunity, spend a summer or let's say half a year with us, come to Linz and develop with us this new prototype. And that was the founding moment at the same time of our Future Lab. That is now it is a very important initiative playing a role global-wide. And it's so to speak a prototype of a new culture, a new type of collaborating, where artists would not necessarily create a next art form, but would join in processes like in scientific context, in the context of industry, economically driven, with commercial interest, with the alternative thinking, making a difference there. And this is still today one of the opportunities for media artists to kind of show up with these two faces. On the one side, being commercially successful, making a difference to all this, to the marketing movements, but reinvest at the same time this money earned in their own innovation. Japan, for instance, Rhizomatics, I would name them. I would not say, yeah, I would name them. They are a very good sample where they kind of refresh their souls and their energy, their batteries, their creative batteries, always with their own creative commercial success, which is, it used to be a paradigm. It used to be a sin, so to speak, for artists, but for media artists, I mean, yeah, they still don't have a toe on this stock market of the art market.
May I just interrupt with a
Yeah,
question
sure.
right there? Because the nature of technology and the nature of it is also very open to that commercialization. And we are talking about the artist who's using that into the advantage of making innovation, but also commercializing something, right? So how to have that balance between, okay, this is where does the art end, or does it end, or how do we have the balance between that commercial product or the commercialized innovative step? So how do you see that balance for the artist?
Between selling the soul, yeah, selling your own soul? I think it's a very sensitive one.
Yeah.
But the sample that I just named, the Rhizomatics, it's, I don't know if you know Daito Manabe. I mean, they are. They never wanted to be something else like artists. So and with their talent, so to speak, they could offer an alternative interpretation of what innovation could mean to industries. And for sure, it requires also the other side, the industries. But it's a very sensitive pathway. I would say some are very solid in that, some not. But specifically, and that is the good thing with media arts, that has not this 1,000-year-old expertise looking back, so to speak. With media artists, and specifically on this nexus to science, I would sometimes say when we are going forward, we are not asking these questions because we are driven from something. And I would even more say that art, not in general, but specifically in media arts, is, and also in with the tools and in the speed that we are in. Sometimes art is defined, so to speak, in itself new, not new like in its elements, but in its tools and its ways of expression. And it was also when our Future Lab did that world record with drones. The Olympic Games in Seoul, where thousands of drones are flying now, are under our idea. And Intel stole it from us. But again, we paid a lot of money to the therapist, and we are beyond that too. Because we understood there was a moment where we were dreaming of millions. Where it was a moment where we were dreaming, hey, we can now also afford what these riches are doing. But that was the moment where we didn't understand that the shade of Intel above us, you know, this big mouth, was too big for us. I mean, that we invented it, we did like 50 drones, then we partnered up with them. They were investing with other 50 drones. We thought they are friends. And after a year, the developers of our technologies, my friends and colleagues, disappeared with lots of money. All our contracts, we were on to get the contract with the Olympic Committee to make the openings. And then after a while, we understood that 5 minutes after we were at the Olympic Committee, it was Tokyo at that time, somebody from Intel came and said, hey, we are paying the double. They are asking that you pay them, and we are paying you to go. So Intel now has a contract, I think, until 35, and they have the right to do every opening with our technology. Today I can laugh about it because we made the mistakes exactly because we were dreaming of money, and we forgot who we are. We were the creators and the inventors. And we were looking at this side of gold, and we were blended, so to speak. And that was also the moment where we decided we have to create solutions. At that time, Future Lab was here to create and invent, but also to go on the market. And that was, so to speak, the headshot of this idea. So we created 2 divisions out of it. So where it is good to think commercialized, and the Future Lab, where all our artists were there to really create something innovative, to work on the prototypes, they would be protected and do what they would love to do, creating art or defining art's new. To go on, create your world is not so. No, I think what I wanted to tell you in that timeline is much more this phenomenon, how we created our museum, and that this was also the founding moment of our Future Lab. That is still a rather important and relevant laboratory. So our interpretation of culture now is so that the role model of Ars Electronica became to give the digital a culture. And as I said before, it started with a digital revolution, and it was artists standing there and preaching that this kind of revolution is changing everything. We are now so powerful that we can go beyond the geopolitical fights, and that we create, so to speak, a global citizenship where with this technology we could, like, with or without political pressure, stay in communication and develop further what we want to develop. We all know it came different. In times of Corona, where digital transformation was totally misinterpreted, where nations, I remember Germany was buying, the politicians appeared and in the TV and said, we invested like so and so much, many millions of euros, and we bought 1 million laptops. And I mean, we all know what moment it is when you packed it out and when you switch your laptop on and when you feel the cold. When you get it that without your creativity, without your purpose, this piece of technology stays cold. It doesn't warm your room, not at all. So it was a misinterpretation. Digital transformation is not about buying hardware. It is about educating us and to use the technology for the sake of our interests and targets. And where we are now in times of environmental crisis and in times of digital autonomous machines, intelligent machines, AI around us, is that we desperately need a definition of what digital humanity means. Because again, humanity is not like written in stone. We discussed this yesterday. humanity is only a definition that comes from the context of the culture that is thinking about that. Humanity is nothing good and nothing evil. It is a result of our the decisions society makes, and that's why I love to show this because the definition of culture per se has actually nothing to do with art, not at all from my point of view. It is, so to speak, the sheer decision of a society, how society would love to live together, how to trade and how we deal with each other, what tools are we using and what forms of consummation we are using. That out of this art can be a result is wonderful, but not given. The chicken-egg question, from my point of view, is not given in that point of time. It's a wonderful coincidence that art came over us because it could, from my point of view, and don't wipe me off here, it could easily disappear. And we saw that in the Corona times. It was really a thin ice. The role of art and culture would have blown away in isolation. Some facts and figures and superlatives, and if you want to ask me a question in between, and I told you I'm talking like a machine, and it's like I have 450 slides then later on, and we are now on. So in 2023, talking about growth, it's incredible. It started with 15 artists in '79. And in 2023, in the post city in Linz, in this small city, 250,000 people are living there. We had almost 100,000 visitors. That means almost, the half of the city was visiting us. We had visitors from 88 countries. It's all just superlative what's going on there. More than 1,000 people making programs. In the year before pandemic, we had 1,600 protagonists making programs. Incredible. What sounds so cool is at the end a burden because you understand that you reach kind of a limitation of growth, even of cultural growth. And at the end, you're standing there and you're like you're evaluating yourself via press releases. But what is culture? What I said before. I mean, I started the festival where I knew everybody, every worker, every helper, almost even visitor, even every visitor. And that is creating sustainability, and that is, so to speak, also creating community. And this is what you are doing here. No, this is what you are doing here, and this is why all people are coming here, and this is also what we experienced with Export last fall with in Dubai with Amin. There were 22 artists, and we went to the desert, so to speak, after into the Sahara, by the way, which was wonderful, after the festival, and I thought, wow, this is creating sustainability and community. This is creating memory and legend. And this is also what a festival is here for and what cultural can support and transform. Question?
Yes. So you said this is what we're also doing here, but right now we're talking about today, what all the numbers of 2023, and you began and you said it didn't just appear. There was a lot of challenges. It was not like a big bang that the Ars Electronica appeared, and we all know that. And as an art fair having multiple components, also trying to spread in the city, which we know that Istanbul is too large to be spread it up as ours. So yeah, I'm just thinking of all the challenges you faced and all the lessons learned in the process of expanding Ars Electronica to reach to an international level, and how those experiences may be shaped in the organization's approach to have such a big team and to coordinate that and to build that global community with all those lessons learned. So maybe yeah, I would like to interrupt that with asking about all the challenges.
Yeah, very good question. I mean, there are many challenges. But as I said before, it is not that we were creating the reality that we would fit then in. It was the reality that made us fit. And that is the point. And it is also one of the benefits that we had is that everywhere where economical growth is there, you could really say there is also very subversive oppositional thinking art scene growing, specifically in the media arts. That started like with some European spots, Canada, US, Japan, and today it is everywhere. Every country that wants to be most innovative comes with a very interesting, subversive and critical thinking art scene in the art and tech area. But we have a saying there, because in the entire time where we are trying to kind of be a stage for media artists, one thing didn't happen because of the lack of risk-taking protagonists like you are doing here. That media art still today has nothing to do with the old values of the art stock market, let's say it like that. So we always say, and because we don't have a relation to this market, we are talking to others. And I find it very interesting that you are going the gallery way. And Ars Electronica and all the elements that we have here are more or less symbolizing other ways where media artists could earn and save their existences, let's say it like that. Our museum, as with this educational approach, media artists are good engineers, are good humanists, critical citizens, and they are good mediators, so they are very good in communication, and so they are good educators. They are also moms and daddies, so they have responsibilities and they have a role to say. They have something to say. So our museum is abusing, so to speak, media art as a membrane, as a catalyst, for the sake of educating local communities. Our Future Lab is doing same things, but like in bringing artists together and creating like new understanding what innovation is and opening minds and mindsets and again new business opportunities for industries and for entrepreneurs. And these are somehow all taboos, but the hell, I mean, should we we also have the right to have in winter a warm living room and food at home. I mean, I really say it's so drastic. So Ars Electronica is now rich of different samples where we show ways and pathways for artists where they could grow into their lives, save their existence, and even make a career, let's say it like that. So, and many prizes that we have, and I think we will not reach it to that when I talk so much. We will not come to that part. Are here to open new opportunities, not only for the sake of the interest of artists, but also for those who are interested in gaining this talent, let's say, to look at the things in an alternative, different way. Because the problems we are facing are global. I mean, these problems are making no difference if you're a baker or an interesting artistic person, a philosopher, I don't know what. Look, first are leaving. Do you have another question?
Yeah, well, I was also wondering how the Ars fostered this sense of community. Well, you talked about a lot in this, and the strategies in building this community, which also makes me think of how you said it's spread it in the city, because when you walk in Linz, you're not just walking for Ars, you are walking in the art, you are walking in Ars.
Yeah.
So the city becomes the festival itself. So I think this is one strategy, maybe also to build that community sense. That's how the half of the city size can go to Linz to experience it, because it's not just to see art, but to live the experience. So I thought this is also one of the strategies to build that community, because it becomes a whole experience for the visitors, to attract all the visitors. So maybe if you could talk a little bit more about this experience of the experience of Ars, or maybe how to Ars, I can say.
Well, you're totally right. When the festival is on, it reached a size where it transforms the city to the festival. But I'm coming from this region, and I promise you, I mean, I was only with my motorcycle stopping in Linz because of petrol, because I was too bored of this little city, and because I had to go to Munich or to Vienna. But always when Ars Electronica was on, when you saw the Asian flip-flops guys, the different languages, when you were sitting in a cafe, I thought, my God, this is the smell, this is the sound I wanna have in the city I am. So this was increasing, and after 2009, where this European cultural capital came over us, and still the citizens in Linz are talking from this as a wonderful year. Because it really created identity, which is not the case with this format normally. I'm actually very skeptical to this format, because it's a top-down format, and it's a lot about corruption and everything that comes with when you pull money over people. In our case, lucky we were. It went very good, and it created some sustainability. But what I said before, the kickoff moment why a city, let's say a local politician, saw that it needs, so to speak, a cultural development, not as a plan, but as a metaphor, to make a transformation from an entire city happen. That really had a lot to do with also the growth of Ars Electronica and our influence, and the influence of the guests and the artists coming to us. Because I was studying art in Linz. Experimental visual art had nothing to do with the digital. And when I took over the job as the producer and the festival director, in summer, and we're doing the festival at the end of the holiday, I went to my former classmates. I went to the master classes saying, "Hey guys, I have jobs. Don't you want to come and work with me in the summer? And let's create something cool. It's a hot and bloody summer. It will be painful, but we can share the pain. It could be legendary." I said, "No, I want to go to there was not a single department even being interested in the digital. And today, this entire region has not a single ground school where the digital became not an immanent factor there. So we have high schools, I think 10 are in the region, that they are all dealing with technological issues, humanistic issues, but all related with the digital, and all with this twist. So my colleagues are teaching there and there and there, where we are showing, hey, it's not the discussion would be wrong if we only talk about technology. We would make the difference to silicon blah and blah and blah and blah if we start thinking this kind of digital as being part of a culture. With ethics and the aspect and the question, I repeat myself, what humanism there means. And that created a new identity, and that created also a city where I am happy now to live there, to be honest, because, the layer of reflection, critical reflection on these kinds of topics is really outstanding there. And again, not a big bang happened. It was not about the red or the blue pill. It was a long, painful way, but where all members of society saw it is not just an investment. I don't only give, I also get something back. You're welcome.
Yeah, please continue.
No, I think
Okay.
that would take us another 2 or 3 hours, maybe next year.
So maybe,
but it's an hour,
yeah.
and I don't want to stress the time of these people. You all had a long day.
Maybe I can tie that to another question I had. You said the digital as culture, because it's already embedded in the culture, because the digital is through the technological advancements, it is also part of the culture. It is the culture too. So with this, so how did the scene of Ars Electronica, the art scene, how did it adapt to these technological advancements? Because the artistic landscape is changing. So maybe through that we can come to some different landscapes that appeared and that is going to appear from a more artistic side, in terms of selection of pieces or emerging artists.
First of all, it is not the art scene of Ars Electronica. It is the media art scene, and Ars Electronica is part of it. And we are, let's say, a color in a growing and bigger becoming a global society there. And yeah, and we are part of the first guys, but that does not mean anything more and less. It is a spot where these people with different cultural backgrounds are coming together and getting an exchange. And that is, so to speak, in general, the principle of what a festival should do, whether it's a kids festival or a rock and roll festival or so whatever. It's a common compromise and a dense time you spend to each other. But maybe I show you that slide here. That is also not uninteresting. Ars Electronica became famous because the people we invited and helped us, so to speak, the visionaries from the globe and not from our entity and institutions. They were helping us every year to kind of identify on the horizon topics that would, in the closer or farther future, confrontate us as a society. Nanotechnology in the 90s, even the internet became a golden Niker in the 90s. So it was at the beginning, so our mythos grow with that the forethinkers, the visionaries, the trends.
Transhumans.
Right. But in the time I took over at 2006, or let's say, no, I didn't take over, I joined in 2006. We saw one phenomenon, and that had to do with that the digital was not just this industrial thing only, that all of a sudden everybody was running around with phones and so computers there and there and there and there. It came over us in every element of our society. And that changed the paradigm of future. So it was not the future literally coming on the horizon, on the timeline. It was much more that the future all of a sudden happened in the present, and that everybody was addressed. And that is also a reason why we have a festival now that is the biggest event in the field still, and happy we are. The community is coming. 1 year not, 1 year or less, but 1 year more. It's topic related and with other circumstances. But when you're entering the festival now, you get a taste of fresh baked bread, because also local farmers are here, presenting, so to speak, to the internationals their goods. And this is not just a cool marketing move where you want to make a difference. This simply has to do because agriculture has started working with AI long before we here, not we here, but long before AI, so to speak, was so became such a mythos. Satellites, they were used by agriculture, by even the small farmers in my region, because with the one or the other satellite of ESA or ESO, in Europe, the high resolution photographic made it happen to see the conditions of the trees, and drones were used actually before Ars Electronica made the world record, by local farmers to go over the fields to check if young deers are inside, so that they would not, when they cut the grass, kill that. This was the purpose of drones. So this kind of technology flooded us all over, and it created goals, it created success, but it created also, so to speak, many questions, elementary questions. Yeah. And what we have now at Ars Electronica is that from Japan, for instance, I think it was last year or years before, half of an Airbus came from Tokyo, invited by Hakoda, which is the second biggest agency. It's Denso. Everybody knows this from this car race thing. So you see this everywhere. And Hakoda is the second biggest, which is still not comparable to what agency sizes in the Western side. It's huge. They came on with C-level managers from the leading tech industry, Panasonic, Honda, automotive industry, to visit our festival as a experience for helping them, because they were aware that still they are very successful, but they would not understand the complexity of the future coming quicker and quicker, and the role of somebody building cars, for instance. Mercedes-Benz came to us with the first autonomous car. They presented the car in Linz first, not in Frankfurt at the fair, and they were like collaborating with our Future Lab, because they were investing billions of whatever you can invest into that car, whatever you can buy with technology, and then they forgot that this technology is stupid like a piece of white bread, and I'm sorry, white bread. Because when it's about the interaction to humans, it is totally clear when you want to implement something into the public, you need like a rate of 99% dropout, not 60% is good. So with this metaphor, when an autonomous car is coming and the grandfather and the niece is standing there, and this is this platitude, this stereotype, and what decision makes this algorithm when it's about like clear, I will have to kill because of this accident one of these two. When technology is making the decision, is it grandfather or is it the young blood? And they understood now, my God, intelligence is something different when we're talking about humans. And it was wonderful for us to see that they are approaching us, symbolizing, so to speak, media artists, because they forgot ethics.
Yeah, because it's also about the artists who are looking into the material, who are looking into the agriculture, the plants, even just a single corn, it has technology embedded, just like you mentioned right now. The agriculture has technology embedded in it. It has the satellite technology, the biotechnology. So I think it's also through the artist's vision, okay, how can I hack this? How can I open this black box? How can I unfold and untie all of these relations between the science, society, and technology contradictions, so that they can look at that material from a totally different perspective. So I think that's really visible also while you're experiencing the festival through the nature of the pieces. There's always the touch of society, not just the human society, but also other than human societies.
Yeah, I would say it's human-centered, human-centered technologies. This is a term that we stress there and that we implemented. But also this is something that is not fitting in our time anymore, because we have to kind of now hybrid artists, bio artists, artists that I think are cutting edge in the global society. They are showing us what human-centered technologies actually means, so that they are helping us to kind of demystify AI and position AI like as something that was created by artists, but would then like serve outside of the context of human, where we are indirectly benefiting. When talking about pollinators, talking about creating, so to speak, a dynamic where technology, intelligence, autonomous technology could help the from human destroyed dynamic of circular economy in nature to kind of, close this again and to maintain, so to speak, and support nature. This is what we have to understand, that human-centered doesn't mean that we are like not part of nature. A human-centered, it would have mean like a nation-centered technology, exactly, where human are an immanent part, like all other creatures and all our elements around us, because without them we would disappear like everything else.
Without the bacteria in our guts.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah.
So maybe we can have a few questions from the audience, and then we can,
I have a naive question for you. You introduced the festival with a lot of components: the prize, the festival, the center, the future lab, and there are others, including, for example, the fireworks. That was important considering the general audience and the mayor, I know. So there are many components, visible components, other components. So my naive question being, considering the experience of the event about media art, if you had randomly, I would say, a duo of artists who would like to initiate a very important event of that kind, including the art market, what would be, do you think, now, the component not to miss? It's a tricky question, I know, but if you have to give a piece of advice.
I can give you a piece of advice. So I know that your dialect, for instance, and also where I'm coming from, you know, what we did with this, with our thinking of colonialists, that we come, that we preach, that we say, shut the fuck up, listen, and then we leave again. This is actually, I mean, I'm sitting in so many juries, Latin America, there and there and there, and it is totally frustrating to get that into my face every time, to understand, my God, actually, it's all coming back. So what I mean with that is that respect to the local circumstances, a protocol of ethics that creates a culture of encounter, where those who are hosting and those who are coming are and the festival is good for that, are able to meet on eye to eye, where the problem of the one is not the second-class problem, so where we start curiosity towards the situations of the others. And then I think we can benefit out of that. So then it is working. I think we had so many different franchise approaches where festivals would come like, come on, take it, make quick success, but we don't create sustainability there. So you cannot break time. I would say when we are doing export, for instance, so we have a rule that we and also because of the pressure of the employees working for us, that worked for me in the case, because they said, if I want to sell something, I don't want to sell it like somebody sells a car. I just don't. I want to sell values. So this protocol for us says, okay, we insist on gender balance. We insist that when we are doing an exhibition abroad, that we are not coming and only curating. We want to get in contact with the local community. We are curious. We can benefit out of that, and we want to like team them up with the international expertise, not making like a garden. Look, there are the stars, and look, and look who is benefiting. It is, I don't know. It is about neighborhoods. And about that you have to be aware that you meet twice in life. Naive answer. And you should be human and not see the commercial interest. That is also something that makes our life and what we are experiencing always to a hard process on the one side, but you get so much more back when you meet the people again. And this is what I also saw like in the last years, that creating community is something that you have to take care.
Thank you.
Hi. I remember that a few years ago, I think it was before COVID, you made a section of media art galleries as part of Ars Electronica. So what were the insights after that experience, and is the festival is going to continue with this initiative?
Super good question. And I know you from somewhere.
Yeah.
At that time, this is what I meant before. So we saw the big transformations. We saw the need, so to speak, to kind of further take care to create opportunities for artists. But at the festival, the gallery spaces, as we called it, was much more an experiment. So we wanted to open for the gallerists who would be curious to enter this art and tech world, but who would you have to be aware, and you are aware, that every day you are not in your daily businesses, you are risking, so to speak, your invest, and you're risking your existence. That is totally clear. So we were asking, hey, would you be curious? We would offer a stage, come to us, and we would use the big boost of the festival to raise the questions: what values would a market for art and tech need when we are beyond the traditional and classical markets, and when we have it to do with computer machines that one would throw away because it's like senseless, and after 10 years nobody knows how to start a Windows 95 machine anymore. And that was an experiment that only disappeared because of the many few other opportunities that opened up, and because of the limitations of us as an organization. Instead of that, there came this flood of European residency opportunities and the many programs. And I had today an interesting discussion with a Slovenian colleague, with Martin, is also his name, where we say, okay, in post-Soviet, in Soviet time, also in Austrian time, in communist time, in Yugoslavian time, there were Staatskünstler saying, state artists. So artists who would promote, so to speak, the propaganda with a political agenda. And Europe really thinks that these top-down programs, I mean, even when they are very important, because, bringing artists to ESA and ESO is for the single artist a lifetime experience and a benefit for both sides, no doubt. But top-down, one could see it, the same. Soviet Union was so big that also there was the freedom of this kind of exchange, and although Yugoslavia was like a very liberal on the one side, that brings us into a different discussion. But I see it a little bit problematic, and I see also that this preciseness, this oppositional, critical approach of a single artistical mindset that can be so provocative that even the cops are knocking on the door asking, what the hell are you doing here, and so that this is kind of a little bit wiped out or washed away because of the many opportunities artists get in jumping from one residency into the other residency, and at the end they're creating like a world wonder machine where everything is inside but no essence anymore. And I say this because I was and I'm still one of the strong supporters and very successful in gaining European money with my team. But I now see that very solid artists are all of a sudden creating a language that has not, this origin quality of what language is, to simplify, to clarify, and not to kind of talk endless like I am doing it and create the gray soup. So, but back to your question. So, other opportunities for our strategical going forward opened up, and it was simply the sheer limitations that we said we would love to invest again into this market-orientated gallery spaces, but we lack of resources. But nevertheless, it needs to be done.
Do you have any specific attempt on preserving the media arts? Because like it's one of the biggest issue of the media art, archiving and preserving, and how you work on it. Do you have a specific program? Do you have still Windows 3.1 to play these pieces?
To be honest, this is a big lack of Ars Electronica. We have an archive. If you look close at the archive, you see how we are driven. And it is also interesting also with us when you have it to do with colleagues and you are collecting the colleagues for some specific values and reasons. And we are all so forwards driven that it's really a sin and a pity that our archive looks like it is. But I saw Bernhard today, the former head of ZKM, who is in charge to preserve all the Nam June Paik pieces, for instance. And this is a guy who is in its fine resolution of understanding the pieces on a level where he said, hey, you just cannot show a 4:3 piece on a 16:9 piece. You just cannot preserve some, you know, we don't have the time and also not the international, the intellectual sensitivity, to be honest. And we don't also see ourselves, it's not our cultural order of Ars Electronica, it's much more the area of ZKM, I would say, to preserve and document in a retrospective way the growth of something, of the media arts, to deal with that. Ars Electronica is really lousy on that, really, to be honest. But we have these computers and I know people who can start them.
So, to wrap it up, thank you again for joining us. And you gave the spoiler, but we will keep making more announcements on our precious partnership. And we are also very thankful as the Noise team to have the support and the belief of all the flagship holders, such as EKM, such as Ars Electronica. On our first year, we are very happy to get to know a lot of, to get to know all the participants of Noise in our first year, all the international participants and the locals. So thank you for coming and thank you for sharing all your experience. And I think we still have some coffee if you guys want to have a sip before you leave. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.